Hey guys, I'm going to bring another comparison video for y'all today. Really excited about this video because basically it's been in the works in my mind for years now. Ever since I started my flashlight journey on looking for the perfect EDC light, I have slowly narrowed what I looked for down to these two lights. And there's some definite differences and advantages of one over the other that I'll get into here in a minute. But roughly, I'm looking for a really bright, really small, compact, carryable flashlight for me and my job. I do use a flashlight a lot working on an ambulance making 911 calls. We do a lot of calls in the middle of the night or early in the mornings, and having light on you is essential for me. And what we're looking at today is going to be the Olight Baton 3 and then the Foursevens Mini Mark III. Now, when I started looking for the perfect EDC light, I wasn't looking at the Baton 3. I was actually looking at the Baton 1 or the Baton 2 because, like I said, it was years ago when I really started looking and searching YouTube and Amazon and online to find the type of light that I was looking for. But the Baton 3 is the greatest and latest iteration of the Baton series, so that's what we'll be looking at. Now, I've quickly jotted down a list of desirable traits that I look for in my flashlights. And they're in no particular order, but basically how we're going to judge these two lights today, we're going to use the quarter scoring system. Now, the scoring system is going to be, you get no quarters if it's bad. You get 1 quarter if it's acceptable, 2 quarters if it's good, and 3 quarters if it's great for each of these traits. Now, this is assuming that all these traits are considered equal. For example, I might actually put a higher emphasis on lumen output than I do the pocket clip, or a higher emphasis on the rechargeability of a light as opposed to the lumen output, or what have you. This is assuming that each of these traits that we're looking at have the same score of priority, if that makes sense. So, our first trait we're looking at is going to be the value. Now, both of these lights, I believe the MSRP on both of them is pretty much $65. Now, that being said, with $65, you get a recharger with the Olight, and I don't believe you get one with the Foursevens. I did have to buy, I bought this one on sale for $52, but I believe even if you buy it at $65, you're still going to have to purchase a separate charger, which is going to run you about $10. When I'm looking for a light, I also want something that's sub $100. So even though you're probably getting a better value with the Olight, $65 for the amount of light that you're getting and the quality for the Foursevens is still good. So for this, I'm going to have to give the Olight's going to get 3 quarters. Great value. It's still sub $100 for a carry light. And for the Foursevens, I'm going to say it's a good value. It's not great. It's not quite on par with the Olight, but it is a good value. Second, we're looking at durability, or the IP rating, roughly. From my understanding, Olight has IPX8 rating. And I believe, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the X in the IPX rating means that it was not really tested for dust and solid protection. I believe I've read that online. And the Foursevens Mini Mark III has a IP67 rating, which means basically it was tested for dust. Now, because of that, I'm going to have to give the Foursevens a 3, and I'm going to give the Olight a 2. Both still really good. Basically, what I'm mainly looking for when it comes to durability is something that is submergible. There's a really good chance that I'm going to drop these lights in mud or water, and they're going to be submerged in who knows how deep of water, probably just a couple inches. But I would like to know that the light is going to be able to survive, and I haven't just thrown away $65. So I do like to have something that is durable when it comes to submersion and dust protection. So both of these are really good, if not excellent or great. But like I said, I will have to go ahead and give the Foursevens 3/4 just because it actually has been tested for the dust. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that's the case. Correct me if I'm wrong. The clip and carryability is our next feature that I'm looking at. This one is tough. Now, although the Foursevens looks like it has a really crappy pocket clip, I mean, this thing is ugly, and it looks like it's a piece of crap. Looks like it's some sort of cheap, flexible metal. But I will have to say, this is a good pocket clip. It's got great retention. It doesn't want to spin. It doesn't want to move. It stays in your pocket. Doesn't want to walk out. So this is a good clip for sure. And it actually does feel good in the hand, just the way you get your 2 fingers on it. You can twist the lens to adjust your modes, and your other finger kind of just slides right into that little indentation in the pocket clip. So it is definitely a good clip. It's not what I expected. Like I said, I expected it to be a piece of crap when I ordered it. I assumed I was going to have to order an aftermarket clip to put on there, but I was surprised to find that that is not the case. Now the Olight, it does have a 2-way pocket clip. That's awesome. I do like that feature, although I don't really use that feature and probably won't. It is nice to have. It also, the baton 3, third iteration, has this tiny little ridge that sticks out on the inside of the pocket clip. And what it looks like it does is it just allows more surface area to connect with the side of the flashlight and or your pocket so that it retains better. But that being said, it does not feel as good in the hand. When I hold this light, my index finger wants to sit right there towards the edge of the cap, or the edge of the lens rather. And because of that, that little pointy area of the clip wants to dig into my finger, so it's rather uncomfortable. I'm trying to train myself to hold it back here, but for whatever reason, it's just the way my hands are. I want to hold it just more like this than I do that. The ergos on both of these are excellent as far as the stippling. The stippling on the Olight and on the Foursevens are great. This is deep ridges. I wish these deep ridges would have extended all the way out to the cap, or that the cap had more aggressive texturing. Since this is a twisty light, you have to really make sure that you get a good purchase on it in order to function. But also, the Olight does have a great stippling right there to help keep your fingers on it. And that's pretty vital for a small flashlight like these guys, because you're really looking at a 2-fingered flashlight. I mean, you can kind of maybe get 3 fingers on there, but really it's just going to be mostly a 2-fingered operation plus your thumb. So having a nice stippling on the light is pretty essential. So I'm going to have to give the ergos on both of these, I'm going to say they're both good. So they're both going to get 2/4. They're both basically equal in my opinion as far as the ergos, carryability. So they're even in my book. The next feature we're looking at is rechargeability. Now, Everybody knows that the Olight Baton 3 has their proprietary magnetic charging, which is definitely the best in the business, guys. It's super easy. It's super fast. Very convenient. What else can I tell you about their charging system? Of course, it's all included. You don't have to buy a separate charger. With the Foursevens, it did not come with a charger, but thankfully it did come with a rechargeable RCR123A battery. So even though it doesn't have that charger, you're still set up to recharge your flashlight. And as many of you know, I've said in my other videos, having the rechargeability function on my flashlights, my EDC flashlights, is an absolute must. Running to the store every time your battery goes dead, or having to purchase and replace batteries every time they go dead, is not something I'm into or going to do. So having the rechargeability function on my carry flashlights is an absolute must. Probably one of the most important features for me. So for both of these lights, I'm gonna have to give the Olight 3 because it's the best in the business. Functions very well, super easy. You know, you're not having to pull your battery out and plug it up, which doing that is not the end of the world, but it doesn't get any quicker and easier than their magnetic recharging. And for the Foursevens Mini Mark III, I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 quarters. The fact that it does come with a rechargeable battery, I'm going to say that that is good. I mean, it's better than acceptable. It's good. So that's how they rank with the rechargeability. Battery life indicator is my next desirable trait when I'm looking for flashlights. So the Olight Baton 3 not only has a battery life indicator, it has the best real-time battery life indicator that I've ever seen in a light, period. The button of the light will stay green when your battery life is between 100 and 60%. Between 60 and 10%, it will be orange, and below 10%, it's going to be red. And below 5%, it's actually going to flash red. And it stays on those colors to where you're not having to press any buttons, twist anything, do any kind of finagling in order to check the battery life of your flashlight. And as I've put more hours on these lights, guys, and other lights as well, I've come to really appreciate a battery life indicator when it comes to my lights. You know, knowing how much battery life is left in your light is pretty important. The worst thing in the world is losing track of how much battery life you have, and then when it's time to use your light in a critical or important situation, or maybe it's not even an important situation, maybe it's just something you need your light for. It's very inconvenient, such a hassle to whip your flashlight out and it's dead, or it's dim and about to go dead because you didn't keep up with the last time you charged it, or etc. So that feature is becoming more and more important and desirable for me and what I look for in a flashlight. The Foursevens Mini Mark III does not have any sort of battery life indicator. It basically runs and it will flicker out when it's dead. I wish Foursevens would integrate some sort of flash battery life indicator. I know that the O-bulb has, when it gets below a certain percentage, I want to say maybe 10% or 5%, every 30 seconds the light will flash, the bulb will flash. And that's really nice because it just lets you know that, hey, go ahead and plug me up. I need to be charged. That way you're not actually out of light in a situation where you're completely out. You can go get another light or do whatever you need to do to make sure that the situation is handled without running out of light. So having that battery life indicator is really nice. I wish they could do something like that to where if it was below 10%, every 30 seconds, the light will flash. To me, that would be good enough to say, all right, it's got a good battery life indicator. Now, for those reasons, like I said, this one does not have any sort of battery life indicator, so it will not get any quarters. I find that to be a bad feature. The Olight, like I said, not only does it have one, it's got the best in the business. It's going to get three quarters. All right, guys, our next feature that we're going to be looking at is the user interface. Now, these two lights are completely different when it comes to how you activate and change your modes. Obviously, the Olight is a button activated, and the Foursevens is a twisty activated light. Both have their advantages and disadvantages, and one being the button activated, you're going to have a much easier time changing and selecting your different modes, and it'll be a lot quicker. It's for sure a one-handed activated affair. Now the twisty. The advantage of the twisty is it basically is the most solid and the best lockout mode of any flashlight there is, because it basically, you untwist it until it goes off, and that's your lockout mode. So that's the advantage of the twisty, but what you gain in the lockout mode, you lose in convenience when it comes to activating your light. Now that being said, it's not the worst in the world. It's not even bad. It's still a good user interface. But it's definitely not as nice and convenient as having a button. A lot of times, your user interface on twisties is going to be a two-handed affair as opposed to a one-handed affair, although you can do it with one hand with practice. So the user interface on these guys, I'm going to give the Olight a 3, and I'm going to give the Foursevens Mini Mark III a 2. It's still a good user interface. Now, with the user interface, I guess I forgot to mention, basically, you know, with each click, if you hold down the button on your Olight, you're going to go into your moonlight mode. Keep holding it down and you will cycle through your different modes. You double click, goes into turbo mode, and triple click goes into strobe. Very quick, very easy to activate and control your modes. Now with the twisty, basically this one is a hybrid type, has a hybrid memory mode with this Foursevens. Basically, if you turn it on moonlight mode or low, which is 1.5 lumens, and turn it off and leave it for over 2 seconds, it's going to remember that mode and it's going to come back on in that mode. If you want to cycle your modes, you turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. And basically, if you do it within like a second, I think, then it's going to actually cycle through your modes. If you want to get to turbo, you basically have to on and off really quick twice, and that's your turbo. So, like I said, with practice, you can do it with one hand, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. And even with practice, every once in a while, your finger or thumb will slip, or you'll get the timing wrong, and it won't go into the mode that you're trying to get to. So, again, for that reason, I'm going to give it a 2. It's still good, but it's not as good as a button user interface. All right, modes and uses is the next one on our list, guys. Modes and uses. All right, let's quickly roll in our specs on both of these lights. We'll look at the Baton 3 first. Basically, you got your turbo mode. It's 1200 lumens. It's going to run that for 1 minute solid, and then it's going to take 30 seconds to ramp down to 300 lumens. On high, so you're looking at 300 lumens, medium 60, on low 12, and on moonlight mode is 0.5 lumens. So it's a really nice dim moonlight mode. Definitely my most used and favorite mode of the flashlights. Now, our run times, well, hang on, we're gonna look at run times here in a minute. Let's go ahead and we'll finish looking at our modes. So you can look at 1200, 300, 60, 12, and 1/2. So those are your outputs compared to the Foursevens. Let's roll in what the Foursevens has got. Turbo, you're looking at 900 lumens. On high, it's 350 lumens. On medium, you're looking at 45 lumens, and on low, it's 1.5 lumens. Now, I consider anything under 2 lumens to be a moonlight mode. And pretty much, if the flashlight is 1.5, 1, or 0.5 lumens, then it's going to be, I would consider that a moonlight. So, even though it says that that's the low mode, and it is low mode, it's still moonlight setting in my opinion. So, the modes, let's see. To me, guys, it's kind of going to be a wash for these lights because although the Olight runs 300 lumens on high, and let me go ahead and explain. My most used modes on flashlights is going to be the moonlight and then the high setting, with possibly the turbo being maybe the third most used mode. I don't use the medium modes or the in-between modes very often. So basically your lowest mode, your high mode, and then a turbo if there is a turbo are the most used modes that I use. And I guess since I said that the moonlight is my most used, I would consider that one to be the most important if I had to rank them. And then probably the high setting would be the second most important, and the turbo being the third most important. Now, let me see. To me, these flashlights are a wash because, like I said, although this has 300 lumens, this one has 350 lumens. And this one has longer run time than this one does, but like I said, this has got 350. And I've come to kind of, what is the word I'm looking for? Basically, to me, a good high mode, I'm looking at least 350 lumens to light up a decent sized room. The Olight will definitely function and it works just fine, but I really kind of like 350 lumens to light up a small room. A little better. It's definitely better to have that extra light. And since the color temperature on both of these lights is different, this is a warmer light, that might have some effect on it as well. But on my modes, guys, I'm going to give it's a wash. Both of these are great. I think that, it would be hard to choose which one is better in my opinion. And like I said, I think a lot of that has to do with the color temperature on both these lights. Because this is a warmer light than this one is. Almost half of the K output that this one is. So, I'm going to give them both 3, guys. They're both great. So, yeah. They're both getting 3. I think that the outputs on both of these are awesome. Run times. Run times is our next feature that we're looking at. On the run times, let's pull back in our Olight specs. Run times on the Olight is 95 minutes on high, 7.5 hours on medium, 33 hours on low, and then 20 days on moonlight. That's awesome. Foursevens Mini Mark III. Run times on burst or high is like 30 seconds. And then it takes another 30 seconds to ramp down to the high mode. But on high, it's 60 minutes. So you're looking at an hour as opposed to over an hour and a half compared to the Olight. The medium, which is 45 lumens, this one runs for 9 hours, so you're getting a little bit longer run time than the 7.5 hours, but it is 45 lumens instead of 60. And then the low is 90 hours. That's basically the moonlight mode. And you're getting 90 hours, roughly a little over over 4 days, something like that, close to 4 days. I can't do math without a calculator, guys. And the Olight, with its moonlight mode, is 20 days. So, run times, guys, I'm going to give the Olight 3 because it's great. And the Foursevens, I'm going to give it 2 because it still is good. Our next feature, guys, is going to be the lockout mode. Like I said a minute ago, the best and most reliable lockout mode in a flashlight is going to be your twisty. There's basically no way that the twist light is going to come on in your pocket and you'll be without light in a time of need. So the twisty is for sure going to get 3/4 for me because it is the most reliable. Now, the Olight does have a lockout mode. You basically hold it down for 2 seconds or something. The moonlight comes on and then it goes off and it turns on the lockout mode. And if you click the button, it basically turns red and will not turn on the light. In order to turn it off, you basically hold the light down for 2 seconds and it comes back on. It is a good lockout mode, probably not great, but it is good, so I'm going to give it 2/4. All right, replaceable batteries, guys. That's our next feature. The Olight, it does have a proprietary battery, and the Foursevens takes any sort of rechargeable CR123 type of battery, and you can use regular CR123 batteries in it. So because of that reason, and the CR123 type batteries being more readily available, you can go down to Walmart and pick them up. The Foursevens is going to get 3 because that is great, and Olight is going to get 2. Our last feature, guys, is going to be style. Now, I don't like a flashlight that's got all of the pointy edges that stick out, and it's not very uniform. The end cap has got like spikes on it, or got all those freaking heat dispensers on them. I'm not a big fan of that. I like for my lights to be uniform and to basically have style. That is an attractive light right there, guys. Uniform. There's no octagon, quadragon. Actually, I take that back. There is a tiny little octagon or quadragon, whatever it's called, at the very base of it, but it still is uniform, so that has got style. Same with the Olight. There's nothing crazy going on here, guys. It looks good. It looks like a good light. There's nothing flashy. It's not trying to look cool. It's just a regular, nice-looking, uniform, smooth light. So, for that reason, I'm going to give both of these a 3. They're both getting 3/4, guys, because they're both excellent. They're both very, very attractive and stylish looking lights. So, this is how the lights stack up, guys, in my opinion. This was a off-the-cuff video that I just kind of thunk up in my mind all of a sudden. And I didn't rehearse it, didn't go through it in my mind. And looks like the Olight beat the Foursevens by 4/4. So, it did beat it barely. It's definitely the best in my opinion, but it's very closely followed by the Foursevens Mini Mark III. If I could, if there was a way to basically take the beam, the color temperature on this light and put it in the Olight, then you would have the absolute perfect flashlight, EDC flashlight. Because the color temperature on this one is 4,500 as opposed to 6,000 to 7,000 on the Olight. So it's a wider, brighter type of light. It's not as easy on the eyes as your lower K output lights. So if I could change one thing about the Olight to make it better, it would be that it would have like a 4500K output type of color temperature. So guys, that's the end of the video. If y'all have any suggestions on how to score and do comparison videos in the future, let me know. There will be an Amazon link in the description below for both of these lights. I would definitely recommend both of them after using them for a while. They're both great lights, and I don't regret getting either one. They're awesome. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and we will see y'all on the next one.